Dick the Little Pony, Firefly, Ember, Applejack, Twilight and Bow Tie, Black Beauty, Strider, Soldier Boy, Eeyore, Boxer, Mr. Ed, Traveller, and BoJack Horseman. Now let's meet Bree, Hinny, Brinny, Hui, Ha. Yeah, I don't know if I pronounced that right or not. Hello and welcome to the Friday Fantasy Show from the Bottled Imp, exploring the realms of fantasy. My name is Ken Boyter and today we're going to take a look at, yes, it is The Horse and His Boy, which is part of the Chronicles of Narnia. And this is book 3 in reading order. It's actually book 5, I believe, in publication order. I'll put those orders in the description of the YouTube episode just so you can check out if you're really interested, if you've got that sort of geek gene in you and you want to know things like that, because there is a chronological reading order, which is the order I've decided to read them in, which is different from the publication order. And this is of course written by C.S. Lewis, and this was written in published anyway, 1954, so it's probably written slightly before that, and it was published by Geoffrey Bles Publishers, B-L-E-S, and illustrated by Pauline Baines. So there's a few illustrations that are scattered through here. And I thought, yeah, we all know The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, very famous. But I thought, oh yeah, look, there's actually 7 books. I hadn't read any of them. So I thought, yeah, if you're going to explore the realms of fantasy, that means doing it thoroughly. So I thought I'd have a quick look. We have reviewed books 1 and 2, which is The Magician's Nephew, and also The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. So let's just check out the goings on in The Horse and His Boy. The Horse and His Boy. What's it all about? Well, the setup is pretty straightforward. It's set in the Golden Age when Peter from The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is High King of Narnia. And the adventure, this particular adventure, does focus on a boy called, and again, I'm not going to pronounce this right, Shashta, S-H-A-S-T-A, Shashta, who lives in the cruel land of Calormen, and his father is a poor but cruel fisherman who beats Shashta. And this isn't much of a spoiler, I don't think. He's actually adopted. He was found by the fisherman. So you get to know that, and then the story, the actual kind of where the motivation comes and kicks off the story, is that one day a stranger on horseback visits his father and demands hospitality for the night. Just says, I'm a noble person, I demand that you give me hospitality. I guess they just feel entitled. His father does, obviously, he's noble, I better let him stay. So he lets him stay. And the stranger, who then reveals himself to be the great lord, so he's the great lord of the land, wants to buy Shashta. Forgive me for the pronunciation all the way through this. And you kind of think, what? That's outrageous. Not his father. His father and the High Lord start bartering, like he's going to sell him on. I guess because he's adopted and he's a cruel man, and he just thinks, yeah, I can make some money out of him. Meanwhile, the boy overhears this and obviously is livid, is furious, and he decides that he's going to escape. And he's just about to escape, but he manages to... the horse that the High Lord rode in on, lo and behold, is a talking horse. Oh yes. And the name is that long name that I said in the pre-intro. And for ease of talking, it's shortened to Bree. So the horse is called Bree. It's a talking horse. There are themes, and we will get onto talking horses in a minute, but one of the themes that crops up really early on, and as I kind of mentioned in the setup, is that the boy is basically a slave. Although, he's got a father who's his fisherman, the fisherman basically just treats him like a slave. And also the boy was kidnapped as a baby. That gets revealed as well, and is enslaved in the land of Calormen. So the boy is almost double slave. So he's kidnapped as a baby. He's brought up by this cruel father who treats him like a slave. And I was surprised to see early on that this would be one of the themes in a children's book. No, I take that back. Because it's written in the 50s, I guess I have this weird vision that big issues and heavy issues and serious issues weren't necessarily tackled in kids' books. But of course they were. So it's nice to see this is tackled, this whole thing about, ownership of another human being. It doesn't go too deeply, but I think that's fair enough, because obviously these books are aimed at relatively young children and upwards. And the tone of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and the previous one, the Magician's Nephew, is very kind of light, but they do touch upon heavy issues. So I like the fact that this issue is being tackled, but it doesn't go too deep. And that's fine, because there are quite a lot of themes that are packed into this. It's not a thick book, but he manages to put a lot of themes in, but just touch on them. But not only human slavery, animals too. Well, there's horses. Horses are considered slavery. Now, in Narnia, the animals can talk, and they're meant to be kind of free animals. Whereas in this land, the horses, they don't talk. But Bree can talk, but he's a clever horse, he's an intelligent horse, and he realises that if he starts talking, that's going to draw attention to him. He doesn't know what's going to happen to him. So he just plays dumb and he doesn't talk to the natives of the land, because they just treat horses and animals as commodities. So Bree is a slave as well, and luckily for our protagonist, the boy, they strike up a conversation, and they both want to be free, and they both say that they are, they want to get out of here. And because the Bree is originally from Narnia, the boy says, well, look, let's go to Narnia. So they go to Narnia, and that creates a sense of longing, an overwhelming longing, and you really feel that in the characters, for your homeland, for going home, and that is a really powerful emotion. And a lot of the action does take place between the lands of Narnia and Calormen. There's a big desert, and a lot of the action can take place there, and so there's a faraway land, which is your home, and that thought of constantly, we're getting closer. So the theme is quite strong to do with this slavery and freedom, the two sides of a coin there. Plus there is the female protagonist that joins them on the adventure. Again, the pronunciation, Aravis, and she is a female. She's a young girl who is a noble youth, and she's running away. So again, I quite like that. It's not just affected the humble, poor person. It's affecting nobility as well, because she has been promised and forced. She's going to be forced into a marriage that she doesn't want, and it's quite a horrible situation, because she is a young girl, and they're trying to marry her off to this rich 60-year-old guy who's nobility, and it's to do with land and money, and it's and again, I was surprised that that's in there, but it's good that it's in there, because it's all to do with freedom and choice as well. So those two themes run very neatly together. Then you've got suicide. I was quite surprised that suicide crops up in this novel. It's not fully explored. There's no solution to it. There's no explanation. There's no in-depth discussion about it. But Aravis, if that's how you pronounce her name, she mentions it because she's being forced into this marriage that she doesn't want. It makes her so depressed. She recounts her feelings of knowing this, and it's a strong enough feeling. And she says, what choice did I have? I didn't want to get married. They wouldn't let me just live a normal, happy life that I want to live. I either run, or contemplate suicide. And she mentions that, and she doesn't elaborate on it, and the boy doesn't really talk to, but they do explore this whole, wow, that's a horrible situation to find yourself in, and he's instantly on board to helping her, and they work together, again, fleeing across the desert. So I was surprised to see that in, but fair play. It's 1950s. You know, it's good. These sorts of topics need to be discussed and need to be handled in a sensitive way. Storytelling is another theme that runs through it. There's a lot of characters that will tell their story, and as I mentioned before, she was telling her story, and so the theme of storytelling runs through. Time is given, so away from like, you know, the driving narrative and we've got to get, you know, we've got to escape, got to flee. There's breaks in the story to allow, when you meet a new character, there's space given for them to explain who they are and their story and their background. And there's even, Arivas even says, there's a tradition of storytelling. Everyone gets a chance to tell their story around the campfire. And I just wonder, you know, in our society today, have we lost that? Are people really that bothered about other people? Maybe, of course they are, but maybe social media is the new way of telling your story. But I guess with storytelling, you know, it's a two-way process. You tell a story, but you want the audience to actually listen. So if you put something up on Facebook, you put something up on Twitter, you don't know if anyone's actually listening or if they're actually concentrating on, you know. So it's a different arena. That the goalposts have shifted in that respect. So storytelling is really prevalent as well. And as I say, talking horses sounds like an album or a band, doesn't it? There's talking horses in Narnia where the animals talk. I'm not sure why it's explained that they talk, but it is indicated that we as humans are connected to the animals and in turn connected to the earth, that we're all as one and there's all equality, and that's in Narnia. But in this land, it's not. It's kind of as we have it in the real world, if you like, where, of course, horses don't talk. Now there is and I was really intrigued because I think I misread the title initially, because it's the normal way of thinking of stuff is, oh, it's the boy and his horse, but it's not. It's the horse and his boy. So again, to do with that ownership. And Bree does talk about this ownership of, you know, humans just think they can get on my back and, you know, ride me around and I'm going to be happy with that. No, he hates it, you know, and he only lets the boy ride because, you know, he wants to help him out. And so there's that mutual respect and mutual understanding with each other. So I think C.S. Lewis, you know, could be making a point that, you know, we think as humans that we're somehow superior and that we can just take advantage of animals and dominate over animals. And of course, C.S. Lewis was a Christian, so there was that belief that, you know, and in the Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, or I think it's The Magician's Nephew, which is the creation of Narnia, how Narnia comes into existence, that the humans are guardians over the animals. And it's like, okay, and so I think that's a very Christian idea, which is fair enough, and people have their beliefs, but in a way, but through the writing though, it's more. What I got from this is actually trying to say that we're equal, and that animals are just as important as humans, which is obviously, you know, a good thing. Survival, it runs all the way through this as well. All three of them, Sashtia, Aravis and Bree, I can pronounce Bree, they're all escaping from this slavery, and they all want to, you know, long for a better life. They want to improve their lives, and their lives are in danger. So when they are escaping, there's a lot of survival that they have to cope with, not only being tracked by people that want to stop them, but nature. There's a lion that keeps attacking them throughout the desert. There's the wilderness, there's the heat, there's just, you know, general survival as well. But there's the survival, and so what drives you, and there's interesting to what drives you to keep going beyond all hope, keep going. And so that survival instinct, how much do you want life and how much do you want a better life? And so you keep pushing yourself beyond of what you thought was actually you were capable of. There's religious experience as well within this book. As I mentioned before, C.S. Lewis was a devout Christian, although his faith was tested at times, like it should be, you know, and as humans, we don't really know what the hell's going on this planet of ours and what it's all about. And so you can, you know, and I think it's healthy to look at stuff and analyse stuff critically and get involved with discussing things with people. And so there's I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler here. There's Aslan from The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe appears. and to Sasha, and says, there's a bright light around the lion. So it's a very kind of Christ-like imagery here going on. And it's like, and the whole point of this scene is that it's like God can be willing you in a certain direction. Look for the signs. So I don't want to give too much away, but it's like you may think that certain aspects, certain things that are happening in your life are kind of negative, and you need to be afraid of them. But it's actually saying, no, look closely at them, because it might be slightly different from what you first appear and what you perceive. So question stuff, look at it and analyze it, and really get involved with it, embrace it, and then come to some sort of conclusion as well. And it might be that God is actually pushing you in a certain direction for your betterment. But again, I guess that comes to with, you could read it, well, how do you know it's God? And that's the whole thing with this religious experience, that people claim that they've, been, God has appeared before them, or an angel, or, a beautiful light. How do you actually know what it is you're seeing? Is it light playing tricks? Have you been affected by food or food poisoning, or have you taken drugs or medication, or, what is a religious experience? So, but I quite like the overall message is that, look out for these signs, because it might actually be trying to nudge you politely and nicely onto the right path. So overall, it is an enjoyable book. I did find it a little bit, I don't know how to describe it really, a little bit uneven maybe. For me, there was a little bit of stop-starting, but I guess that's just the nature of it, because they're being pursued. There's this, journey that they're going on. There was set pieces, but I don't know if they were integrated enough. I don't know. I wasn't totally convinced about the portrayal of kids, but then it's the 1950s, and I wasn't around then, despite what some people say. So I don't really know what it's like. But he the language that he uses, I don't know, just feels a bit false, and the narrator's voice. And I found this with his other books. They do feel of the 50s. There's expressions in there, like, and I don't know if this is exact expressions, but things like, what-oh, and, golly, and all that sort of thing. And it does date it quite well in terms of, it feels like it's written in the 50s, as opposed to being a timeless classic, which, if you look at The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, where, C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were friends, and they were peers of each other, and they were writing roughly at the same sort of time, you don't find that in those books. There's much more of a other world, just I don't know how to describe it, normal language, if you like, that clean language that doesn't use slang or 50s language. But that aside, I did enjoy it, and it's good to read. I think if you're going to read the Chronicles of Narnia, yes, read them all. And it's a nice standalone novel. So you can read it standalone. I mean, you don't have to know about Chronicles of Narnia. You don't have to know about Aslan and Peter and what happened in Narnia. So it is a standalone novel, because this series was never written as a series in mind. He just wrote the novel, and it was a success, so he wrote another one and another one. So he was expanding it as he went along. And I think it kind of shows, but it'd be interesting to know if you read this as a child, how much you'd enjoy it. I think you would. So it's not the best out of the series, but it's passable. I don't know if that's a praise or not. Anyway, there we go. The Horse and His Boy. Thank you so much for watching. The Horse and His Boy. Remember, we will be reviewing all of the Chronicles of Narnia. I think because this is such an iconic classic fantasy series, we'd be foolish not to explore it. We do have over 400 videos on our YouTube channel. We've also got a Twitter account to check us out there. We've also got a Facebook page and also a Facebook group. So you can find us on Facebook. We've also got a website as well, which is thebottledimp.com or .co.uk. I can never remember, but check us out then. But remember to keep it unreal, especially if you're a talking horse.